everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday Stream of Consciousness. How's everybody doing today? Welcome everybody watching this morning on the McGrath Podcast Network. Everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All the groups that allow us to share, the great groups that allow us to share. I got to tell you, one of the shows last week went with between clips and you guys, well, all you guys' efforts, 12,000 views to clips and the show. Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. Looks like I'm a little darker than normal. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of my light there. Anyway, thank you to the groups that allow us to share, specifically our favorites at the bottom. John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities, the best admin out there, John Gonzalez. Great job. And his moderators help him a lot, as well as we have a couple in our midst most of the shows. Greg Rawlings over at America's Pastime, the Love for Baseball, another great admin. Flo and Can, two wonderful podcasters over on Let's Talk Sports, which is also a group that allows us to share the show. Ken Krause at Golf Buzz Sports of All Sorts. All you guys, and there's dozens and dozens more, and thank you so much for your efforts. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff over at RW Media out of Ocean City, Maryland. Kind of Pittsburgh focused, but national footprint. I was a guest last Tuesday on the Sports Corner, which runs 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. He does that show at Smoking Jim Frazier. And catch Jack and I tomorrow on Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Jack Hirsch, the official biographer of Michael Jinx Spinks, also the name of his book. Tremendous book. I've got maybe an hour, maybe two to finish this book up today, since there's no Yankee baseball. We'll talk about that in a second. But great job to my good friend and co-host Jack Hirsch. Great job. Lots to talk about today, guys. It's your show, but just to kind of give you some things that I've been thinking about, and I know we'll carry over some of the conversation probably from the 8 a.m. roundtable, because I know Danny and I have some big disagreements here on some of this baseball stuff. But basketball's been on the top of our mind here this week. We've got two teams into the Final Four now in Illinois and Arizona. Two good performances yesterday. First time since 2001 for Arizona. First time since 2005 for Illinois. Congrats to them. Brad Underwood with his first Final Four. Same for Tommy Lloyd. Two guys who, by the way, if the right, well, maybe one of those jobs is open already. If the right job opens, two guys could both have new jobs next year. We've got Tennessee against Michigan today. Rick Barnes trying to get to his first Final Four at Tennessee, his second overall. And Michigan and Dusty May. Dusty May, remember, took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four here just a few years back. And then UConn and Duke, a revived Duke team, if you can say that. They've been winning without Caleb Foster. But I think Caleb Foster's 19 minutes the other night was a huge factor in them beating St. John's. So we can talk about that stuff. We can talk about the Hubert Davis firing. Will Wade back to LSU. He's back to being the number one villain in basketball, because conversations might have been going on longer. Bill Self, what his future will be. On the women's side, we got the Elite Eight. UCLA's in against Duke. Not a lot of, I think they're playing Duke, if I'm not mistaken. Denny can correct me if I'm wrong. We can pull the bracket up later. Not a lot of surprises. We're on pace for UConn and South Carolina to play in the Final Four in the semifinal. Major League Baseball, Yankees and Dodgers off to very good starts. No surprise there, I suppose. My sleeper picks are like 0-8 right now, so they're not doing so well. ABS gets off to a great, if you're for that, a great start as in the Yankee game the other day. It overcame 7 incorrect umpire challenges. But again, I have a problem with some of the, some of the things, that ramifications that could come from this. And I understand why we're here. I'd love to talk about the Netflix, in my mind, disaster the other night. People think it was great. Rob Manfred's in there, and they're asking him about, how he got when he fell in love with Major League Baseball. About ABS. Come on. They're interviewing Jazz Chisholm during the game while he's playing second base. I just, too much Netflix. The hologram ads, worse than the background I used to use on my studio here. And we got NBC kicking off their Sunday night baseball package tonight. Baseball Night in America, I think they're calling it. We'll see what kind of, hopefully we get just a game and we don't get some aberration. But also the Yankees and Dodgers off today. Why are Major League Baseball teams ever off on a Sunday during the season? Why? Makes no sense. A lot of fraternization I see too, by the way. Are we a fan of fraternization in sports in general? And baseball's gotten really. During the same Netflix game the other night, I watched Jazz, and I think it was a Raz for the Giants. I'm not sure. They're like hugging and kissing basically at second base. Don't get it. NFL. Barrett Robbins passed away. Sad. You remember back in when the Raiders, I think, played the Bucks. He missed the Super Bowl. Serious substance abuse problems for Barrett Robbins through his career. Very sad. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. The Florida Attorney General is trying to abolish the Rooney Rule. May go to court to try to do so, at least in the state of Florida, which I don't know how that's going to affect the NFL. But he says it's, race discrimination and some other things. And we didn't talk about this last week, but we can if you want today. Flag football. Last week, we kept talking about flag football being the Olympics. Number one, I don't care. Maybe we don't care and we don't talk about it. But people are saying, well, send the pros, send Patrick Mahomes, send this one, send that one. Well, a bunch of pros played a bunch of flag football professionals, if you will, or that's their forte is playing flag football, and they absolutely destroyed them. So you'd have to send guys who actually play flag football. And then the NBA, we got a few things with the top players. Luka's suspended. We got the top teams coming out of the West and East we can talk about. We're getting into playoff time here in just about 8 games or so. But it's your show. There's other stuff to talk about as well. You guys drive it. We'll talk about it. Good morning, Danny Fuller. Our new sponsor is ABS. I did ask Brian to change the opening. I don't know if you watch the opening to the Brown Table show on Sunday mornings, but each of us have our little photo come up, and each one's got a sport with something exciting happening, and mine is baseball and a home run. And I asked him to just change it from a home run to an ABS challenge, because I think that's obviously more exciting than a home run. So UCLA and Duke today. I thought they were playing these games off of Sunday. I thought they were playing Monday, and I thought they were playing Monday and Tuesday, these Elite Eight games. Danny, I must have had that wrong. So thank you for that. Good luck to your Bruins today. I'm kind of rooting for an upset in the women. I think I took, we'll look at our standings, by the way, for the NCAAs. I'm pretty sure I probably picked UConn to win. But I'd like to see an upset, which their number one seed is that a huge. It's funny to talk about upset, but if UCLA were to win over either Duke or South Carolina, that would qualify as a major upset. I think we can all agree on that. It's my one problem with the women's tournament is that it's way too predictable, at least until we get to now, right? Till we get to the Elite Eight. Funny, too, talking about the women, Kim Malarkey. I know that's not how you say her name, but I will continue to say Kim Malarkey from LSU. After they won the other night. They did win the other night, didn't they? Now I got myself wondering. Did LSU win? They did win, didn't they? Where are they? Maybe they didn't win. No, LSU got beat by who? Duke. Duke beats them. Anyway, after one, I don't know if it was after this game or after the Texas Tech game where they won by 50. She was asked about Will Wade coming back, and she said, "Look, I coached the women's team." Even she wouldn't comment on Will Wade coming back to LSU. Hello, CA. Good to have you with us. I got to tell you, while we've been driving, subscribers on YouTube has started to go up, and we started to do clips. AB and I, or CA and I, are going to talk a little bit more about YouTube at some point. I've just been so busy, and I know he has been. But we are really driving. I mean, the views, because the views on the clips are really going up. It's starting to drive subscribers up a bit. The views for the show have ticked up a bit, not like Facebook, which is still in the thousands. But the clips, we got like 10,000 views on a clip, a couple of the clips, a bunch of the clips for one show. So anyway, great stuff there, and we'll talk to you more about that. Problem is, I can't log into the account anymore. I don't want to have to restart the page, and we'll talk more about it. It's boring stuff, but anyway, we're really trying to move the YouTube needle at some point here. Rick, thank you for bringing that up. Jeff Seaman, a very listen, I'll say great, I guess, linebacker for the Vikings, passed away. Rest in peace to him as well. Certainly didn't have the turbulent life, at least as far as we know, that Bayer Robbins had, but certainly it's worth noting and sending on our condolences to his friends and family as well. Sad to see what guys that we like. I did say they lost to Duke, yeah. Sorry, Kim Malarkey, you're out. Yellow, Can, how are you? We talked about Can and Flo on the Bottom Line Sports podcast. Check them out when they podcast. We try to share, if I'm paying attention to Flo messaging me saying we're going live. But they do some good stuff, and a lot of it through the Let's Talk Sports Network. And let me know, hopefully that's not wrong still. But those guys both do it. Both have served this country or continue in Flo's case to be active. Ken, I don't think you are, but we thank both of you for your service, and you guys do some great stuff too. Always happy to have you pop in, even to say hi. And to your point about Illinois, you know, they're playing great basketball, man. They have one of the most efficient offenses in the league, and they played great defense. They had 16, and also are hitting the offensive board. 16 offensive rebounds last night. Brad Underwood's done a great job. Brad Underwood's name is starting to come up in some whispers. If Bill Self walks away, Brad Underwood, who is from Kansas and has followed a very similar path that Bill Self took to Kansas, job-wise, he could be a potential replacement for him. So we got 2 Final Four coaches who are going to be talked about for other jobs. Arizona's Tommy Lloyd's Arizona coach is being talked about for North Carolina, and Brad Underwood possibly for Kansas if that job opens up. But congratulations to both these guys for their first Final Fours and the first time since 2001 and 2005 for Illinois. Right now, I like Duke with Caleb Foster back. Didn't play at 100%, but played well enough. I said that game was going to come down to Caleb Foster either playing or not playing, and how well he did play if he played. And I think he played just well enough to help Duke overcome that often 94 feet of pressure that St. John's likes to do. And St. John's just couldn't put the ball in the basket. Didn't take enough threes, or the wrong guys were taking threes. Darling's 0 for 4. He takes the last 3. Their best 3-point shooter gets off one shot. One 3-point shot. So in any event, Illinois could win it all. Playing really good basketball. They're going to get, who are they getting in the final? Where do they match up now? I don't, where's the bracket? I lost track of who plays who. Illinois would play the winner of UConn and Duke today, and Arizona will play the winner of Tennessee and Michigan. Some great. I think you'll see 2 good games today. Happy birthday to Earl Campbell, 71 years old. Earl's a man. I see Earl, and he sure looks older than 71. I'll be 71 in 5 years, and I can't believe that. Number one. But poor Earl, I mean, has looked old for a long time. His body took a beating, man. That guy played football in a different than anybody else I can think of, man. And he was so good. in his day, and his run wasn't very long. He guys who play like him are the reason that running backs have such a short shelf life in the NFL. Yeah, much needed rainy weather moving in. We've had a lot of it here, so you can probably have it. We're going to get some warm weather finally up here next week. We're going to get back into the 50s today. Yesterday was kind of cold in the 30 here, half moon. Yeah, Ken, it is time for the NFL draft. In just a few weeks, right? I do believe we'll do a show. I talked to Brian. Brian mentioned it on the McGrath Podcast Network. I'd be happy to sit in and watch the draft and comment as we go. That day after the draft, our weekend playbook show is going to have a little tweak because my granddaughter insists that I go to spring tea at her preschool. So she goes to a Montessori school, and I went to spring tea for her last year, and she called me on the phone at 3 years old. Well, I don't think she called me specifically, but she asked to call me and asked me to go. How do I say no? So we'll get a show. We can't not have a show the day after the draft. It may be early, Danny, 7, maybe, but we'll replay it at the 8 o'clock time slot. We'll figure that out, and I'll let you guys know. Good morning, JB. How are you, my friend? Orioles 1-1. Season's over. Yeah, I was getting chastised for the Giants, who were my sleeper pick to get to the NLCS against the Dodgers, for being 0-3 and scoring 1 run, which if it happened in July, nobody'd pay any attention. But it happens the first 3 games of the season, it makes a difference. And I do believe, I'm not sure, we've changed a lot of freaking rules in Major League Baseball. Maybe they don't play 162 games. Maybe I'm wrong. Just relax. Now, all my sleeper picks, none of them won a game. Giants, A's, Pirates, none of them won a game. I think the Royals were kind of a sleeper for me, and they may have won one. So the Yanks pitching stays and gets healthy. They're my AL pick East, not the Jays. Listen, I'm a Yankee fan. I want to be wrong. I picked them to finish second. I did pick them to make the playoffs as a wild card. I don't have them in the ALCS and certainly not in the World Series. I want to be wrong. That's one selection I really care about being wrong about. But the Yankees need to kind of roll, keep rolling a 7. If you will, because they've got to get the pitching healthy and stay healthy. Garrett Cole, I think, will be comeback player of the year in the American League. That's only if he stays healthy. Rondon needs to get healthy. Yankees have some depth. Cam Sheetler, by the way, pitched great the other day. And that's the Yankees' number 3 starter. And depending, people look at some people look at him as number 4. He's their 3rd starter in my mind, behind Fried and Cole when Cole gets healthy. But we're not going to see Cole till maybe May, maybe by the end of the month, but more likely May. And if they were healthy and we get enough offense out of third base and Volpe's healthy, it's not just the pitching. You need Volpe to be healthy. You need Bird to continue to improve. You've got to get a similar year out of Grisham that you got last year and Bellinger. I don't like the depth of this team that much. So, but I certainly want to be wrong. Carl in April at Pittsburgh. What is that? Oh, as far as the draft. Gotcha. And it's funny, Ralph Williams was talking the other day, and if Ralph, you're watching, hello, check out the Sports Corner on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. But Ralph was talking when I was on the show with him this past Tuesday that he thinks there's some security and safety issues in play at Pittsburgh. He doesn't think that the city is ready to host an event of this magnitude where they're having it from a security standpoint, so and a safety standpoint. So, I mean, I hope Ralph's wrong. I don't know anything about the security and safety parameters around this event in Pittsburgh, but I would hope that any city that was hosting this would have some solid plans of how to make sure the people there are all safe and sound. So, so anyway, we can stay on the NCAA. We can stay on Major League Baseball. The ABS. Let me just go to ABS. Like, let me leave ABS for a second, Danny. I talked about on the MLB update, and I talked about on Friday's weekend playbook. Netflix. So we got 2 new baseball providers. By the way, so you need about 5 subscriptions to be able to ensure you can watch every one of your team's games. Besides whatever regional subscription you need to have to a cable or streaming company to watch your games that are broadcast by the local network. You've got to have ESPN. You've got to have Peacock. You've got to have, I'm sorry, not Peacock, Netflix. You've got to have Apple. So NBC kicks off their coverage tonight, Sunday Night in Baseball, I believe they're calling it, similar to, piggybacking off their Sunday Night in Football package. They took that away from ESPN. Hopefully they do a better job, and I got to believe they will, because they do have a history in baseball. And we don't gimmick it up like Netflix. Please, I don't need, it's bad enough I got to watch managers getting interviewed during the game, right? We missed pitches. They missed pitches. They missed about 4 pitches, I think, interviewing the managers in this game. And first, including the first ABS challenge, by the way, such a big deal. And we missed the first one. And worst of all, we spend the entire top of the 5th, bottom of the 5th, interviewing Jazz Chisholm at second base while he's playing. We don't need to inject ourselves as broadcasters into the game. Now they're part of the game. You're chronicling the game. You're telling me what's going on. I don't need you to be part of the game. So NBC, do a better job. Netflix, stop this horrible practice. I mean, I found myself sitting there hoping that, somebody would hit a bullet at Jazz while he's talking to these bozos. And the broadcasters weren't awful in their call, by the way. But I don't need them interviewing a player. I was hoping he'd get a line drive hit at him, and he'd be kicking it all over the infield while he's talking to these guys. And somebody on the Yankees would say, or Major League Baseball would say, we can't have this. So it's not just Netflix, by the way. MLB and the teams have got to sign off on this. Not a reason to hate Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone could say, no, you're not talking to my guy during the game while he's playing in the field. This is an all-star game. Just stop. That's my first rant of the day. Hello, Paul Spada up in Wisconsin. How are you, my friend? I refuse. I'm not paying for 10. We don't need 10. You only need about 5. But I already have them. I had them anyway. So it's not a big deal for me. Bigger deal for me is figuring out where the game is being played. And on some of those, you get horrible production. Prime you got to have too, by the way. I forgot about Prime. At least with the Yankees. Yankees have a 1 game a week on Prime. Now, I can watch the local guys if I want. Can you refuse that as a manager making? I would say all you need is one guy to put their foot down and say, no, you can't do this. I'm not letting you mic my guy up. What are they going to do? Fire him? Fine him? Fine me. The team can certainly say no. There's no way Netflix and Major League Baseball can tell you we're going to mic your guys up if you are steadfast against it. And if they can, that's BS too. That needs to change. Change all these rules in baseball. We can change everything. We can have automatic strike systems. We can have automatic ball and strike systems. Sorry. We can have replay. We can have pitch clocks. We can make the baseline shorter. We can't put a rule in that says managers can have the right of first refusal for. Why are my glasses crooked? ADD kicks in. No, you're not miking up my player. It's ridiculous. It is a disaster waiting to happen. Hello, Neil. Good to have you with us. Good luck to your South Carolina women here the next couple of days playing in the Elite Eight. He agrees Netflix is a circus, isn't it? I saw somewhere, I don't know if I still have it up here. The questions. I don't know what I did with it. I was going to leave this up so that I could... that's not it. I don't have it anymore. But they were asking him such inane questions. I mean, Manfred is... Plus, we're heading towards ultimately, we're heading towards a lockout. There's like a 99% chance these teams are going to get locked out on December 1st. Enjoy this season. I'm going to try, despite all the things I don't like. You're absolutely right. That interview was useless. The shot from center field for most of the game, you couldn't barely see. It was foggy. They said it was sunlight. Whatever. We'll fix it. You guys get paid for this stuff, man. I shouldn't look like I need to, adjust my rabbit ears to watch the game. Yeah, I don't disagree with you guys at all. If you're not paying for these things already, and I already do pay for, because I've got bundles where I have all of those, because there's some great. I have them because they have great programming on Netflix and Amazon Prime, original programming, better than stuff you see in the movies. I can tell you that. We just finished up watching The Night Manager, which I hadn't seen before. It was actually aired in 2012, and they're having a second season now with Tom Huddleston and Hugh Laurie. Oh, it was great. 6 episodes. Awesome. But anyway, I don't get, if you're not paying for it, I don't blame you. But you'll miss Dodger games, right? If they're on Apple, or they're not on, or if they're on Prime, or if they're on Netflix. Netflix, I think, is only having Sunday morning games, which wouldn't matter. I don't think they start until May, too. So maybe late May. I think TBS had that package before, which they didn't do a great job either. I'll watch baseball tonight. Who's Daniel? Oh, Danny Fuller. I'll watch baseball tonight. A quick pitch and get all my baseball news and highlights last night. I was able to watch 4 different games as they switched in between them and had 4 on the screen. That's good enough for me. You're talking about, baseball tonight on MLB Network. Yeah. First rant after 6 a.m., 9 a.m. for Keith. Yeah, first rant. I feel passionate about these things. I'm not going to just sit by and say, okay, I'm fine with it. Do whatever you want. On the ABS, I've had to. Again, I understand. Danny and I, and a bunch of you, I know I'm in a minority here, a great minority. JB is all in favor of this. I get it. I understand why you're in favor of wanting to get every call right, but not at all costs. Again, there are things that will happen or could happen in really important games in October that will just destroy the excitement of the game, especially the ending of maybe a classic game where we're going to watch a cartoon movie on a big screen to see whether the game is over or whether it's not, and who won and who may have lost. That's exciting. That's edge of your seat stuff. That's what Danny said to me. Now, maybe you're being sarcastic, Danny. I don't think you were. That's not edge of your seat excitement. When I've just watched an exciting night. And if I'm a manager, by the way, I'm keeping a challenge in the playoffs, maybe not in the regular season. In the playoffs, I'm keeping a challenge in my back pocket. And no matter what that 3-2 call is with the bases loaded in a one-run game in the bottom of the ninth, I'm going to challenge it. I also love, by the way, and this was inevitable, right? Because I heard it with Judge the other day. And I think a couple other guys, it's come up as well, where they said, wow, when the challenge, they go, what a great eye in that guy. If a ball is this much off the freaking strike zone, that's not a great eye. That's a good guess. That's what that is. And the umpires are bad. Don't get me wrong. I started to say this. I know why we're here. The umpires suck. They brought this upon themselves. They did nothing to improve their ranks, training-wise, whatever they needed to make sure that these guys understood. They need to be better and more consistent. You know, and I've had these arguments forever that some great moments in baseball would not have ever happened if we had a replay rule forever in baseball. If we had a pitch clock forever in baseball. Think about pitch clock. Think about Kirk Gibson's at bat in the 88 World Series. That wouldn't have happened that way. He'd been forced to go stand in the box and never get out of it. Now, I understand you don't want that happening throughout games in baseball, but in the ninth inning of a World Series game, a guy hobbling around, one of the great moments in baseball history would have been lost. If Galarraga actually got his perfect game for Detroit, it would have been wonderful for him, and I would have been happy for him, but we would never have talked about that game again after the week he pitched it. We wouldn't. Go ahead, name all the perfect games in Major League Baseball history. You can't do it. 25% of the guys I would mention to you pitch perfect games, you'll go, wow, they did? Whoa. Bring in. And again, these are my opinions, right? I do not pretend in life in general. Unlike other people, I promise you, I'm not commenting on anybody here. This isn't about you, Danny, or anybody else who disagrees with me. Because this is in my entire life, right? There are a lot of people, like on social media, for instance, they think they have a monopoly on the truth and facts. I mean, a lot of people confuse facts with opinion, but that's another conversation. I'm not in any way, shape, or form telling you I know everything. I could very well be wrong here. And the World Series situation I brought up may never happen. But I bring it because I have passionate opinions about lots of things, not just sports. Try not to bring too many of those into too light because I get in trouble every time I do the things. I get enough trouble for stuff in sports, much less stuff outside of it. But I have fun. I bring it because you guys allow me to. And when we disagree, I love you all no matter what. Danny, we can scream and yell at each other. We don't scream and yell, but we passionately disagree on this side of on either side of this encroaching. It's not just about ABS, by the way. My argument isn't just about ABS. It's the encroaching AI in sports and life. I don't like it. So that's all. Paul heard that Jasmine, who 10,000. Oh, Jazz made 10,000 for that. Well, that's ridiculous. I don't give a crap if he get paid $1 million. This should not be allowed. And again, they want to pay him. They can pay him. Aaron Boone should be able to say, and again, I don't want to just lay this all at Aaron Boone's feet because maybe he can't do it. But if I'm Aaron Boone, I'm certainly screaming to my management to say, I don't want this to happen. Let me see. I'm going to try something. hang on one second. I know this is great TV. I don't know if I'll get anything. MLB players can restrict players from being interviewed during a game, particularly if they believe it poses a distraction or safety risk. While in-game mic'd up interviews are popular, with who? Gen Z and alphas? I mean, a popular, voluntary, and paid feature, Paul, good call, of modern broadcast, managers can refuse to allow their players to participate and focus. Are there any examples? Nobody's given an example. I want to see. I'd like to know an example of a guy that said no. Aaron Boone. So again, I'll put this at Aaron Boone's feet. He could say no. Kills me. I figured it out. Thank you. And Jazz doesn't make enough, right? He needs the $10,000 to talk to these guys for 20 minutes while he's playing second base. Are you freaking kidding me? I think we got it. Thank you, Paul. Neil, opening day game should be available to the team's audience. San Francisco had no game without Netflix. San Francisco fans had no game without Netflix. Neither did Yankee fans. That game was not on Yes. You listened to it on the radio, and so could San Francisco games. You had radio. You didn't have TV. I agree. Again, there's too many games you've already got to go pay for, right? As a Yankee fan, again, they have at least one game a week on Prime. I have Prime, so it's not a big deal for me. I just got to know when the game's on. For other people, it is. And opening day, and I get it, during the season, whatever, maximize I don't care. I really don't. I guess I do, but I'm not going to lose my you-know-what over that. I got a lot of things to complain about, as you can see. But opening day should be, we've destroyed opening day in Major League Baseball, and we started this decades ago when we took an opening day away from the Reds. We only did it for 100-ish years, I think. For the most part. I'm sure there were interruptions because they were the first Major League Baseball team. So they got that honor to have opening day to themselves, which I liked. And then the argument was, well, it's not fair to other teams. So we started having other teams also open up along with the Reds. Then the Reds weren't always even playing on the first day. And then the games weren't always even played in the country where the games are played. We'd go to, again, the only reason they didn't open up in some foreign country this year is because we played the WBC this year. But we open up in Japan. We open up in Germany. We open up in Australia. We open up in Mexico. There aren't any Gibson-type moments anymore because players would sit. Well, that's a great point too, Rick, by the way. No, they would beg off probably in that moment. I guess I can't disagree with that. I'm sure there's a handful of guys that would have stepped up in that moment because, by the way, Gibson had two bad wheels. And Gibson, if you remember, took one of the worst swings in the history of baseball just before he hit the home run and somehow got a piece of the ball. This is one of the great moments that it'd be lost today because with the pitch clock, he wouldn't be able to kind of take himself out of the box each time and get his body ready to hit. And listen, again, I understand you don't want that happening all year long, every game, every inning. But that was the World Series and one of the great moments ever. And ABS, I had this scenario, right, about the bottom of the ninth in a World Series. I just thought of a great example. Excitement. Don Larson's no-hitter. Perfect game, Perfect game in the World Series, 1956. Correct me if I'm wrong. Strike three, Yogi goes jumping, jumps into his arms. Players All over Don Larson? Imagine. Challenge. Everybody stop celebrating while we watch the cartoon on the freaking big screen. You don't think that's going to happen, huh? So maybe it won't even be. Yeah. You talk about Galarraga's perfect game, right? How are you going to feel when a Dodger pitcher, and Danny wants all the calls to be correct, so I know what he's going to tell me, but I guarantee when it happens, he's not going to feel this way. When a Dodger pitcher is pitching a perfect game in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, 2 strikes, 3-2, and he throws a ball that is a tiny micro millimeter, which isn't even a thing probably, off the strike zone, and they challenge, and it's ball 4. Perfect game gone. That's not what it's for. Egregious? Overturning egregious striker ball calls? Sure. If you can find a way to just do egregious ones. That's what replay was for in the first place, to overcome egregious calls, like the Galarraga call. But now it's everything. If your hand comes off the base, Jack tried to tell me it's okay this morning, I think. We got past it fairly quickly when Jack said something, and Jack, if I'm wrong about this, I apologize. You can tell me tomorrow morning. It's not okay when a guy's sliding in for a double or stealing a base, and whatever, his foot comes off the bag for a millisecond. That's not what it was meant for. Is that egregious? Obviously beats the throw by a mile, but I mean, if he slides off the bag by a foot, you tag him out, then he should be out. He was always out. Every play's got to be actually 100% correct, including that, I'm assuming, right, Danny? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Not everybody likes them, and probably not everybody appreciates them. Even my wife doesn't appreciate my opinions all the time. My wife's the one who's got to listen to everything that isn't sports. You guys get to listen to the sports rants. She has to listen to rants about everything else in the world. Like yesterday, she had to listen to a lot of stuff. You can leave it to your own imaginations what that was about. That's what we love about Keith. Bring your passion. You allow us to bring our passion, whether we agree or disagree. That's what this show's all about. I agree. I tell my wife, everybody is entitled to their opinion, no matter how wrong it is. Including me. I don't have a monopoly on, the truth and accuracy and morals and whatever else. Hello, Robert. How are you, buddy? My favorite right now is Duke. Good to have you with us, by the way. Check out Robert on Sports Scopes. Jesus, Robert, what is it? Every night at 8 o'clock now? I've moved to Duke. Gonzaga was my favorite. I don't have a team. Do I have a team in the Final Four yet? I had Arizona in there. We should look at that a little bit. But I do have. I like Duke now with Caleb Foster back. If he plays as well as he played and can play 20 minutes, he played 19 the other night. I think they're a different team with him on the floor. Boozer's a different player. He still played great without Foster, but he's a different player with Foster there. And you saw some of that. So that's fine. Again, you're entitled to that opinion. There's going to come a point, I don't know what it is. I can't foresee. We don't foresee all the unintended consequences of any rules that we put in, and we see them all the time. We saw an unintended, I don't know if it's really an unintended consequence of replay, but it's finding a way and knowing how to manipulate the replay rules the other night. And I think it was the Dodgers. Danny, correct me if I'm wrong. How many times do I say that in the course of a show, by the way? Correct me if I'm wrong. The Dodgers had a fly ball. They had runners. I don't remember who the runner was on third, but Kyle Tucker was on second. I believe there was a fly ball to right field. The guy from third base tagged up. Kyle Tucker tagged up, and the runner from third went home and scored. Kyle Tucker went to third. Well, they wanted to appeal. And I think the Dodgers knew that the guy on third left early, so they wanted to repeal that call and say he left early and he should be out. But before they could do that, Kyle Tucker took off for home plate, and they tagged him out. Well, now another place happened. You can't go back and replay the run. Brilliant by the Dodgers, by the way. And I don't know the game situation necessarily that happened in. And maybe it was silly to give up an out. You might be able to tell me it was silly to give up an out, but most teams give up out for runs all the time. So there's, again, unintended consequences. As a manager, I'd never allow my players to do any kind of end game. I think you mean end game. They can't. Again, as I just explained to you, I did read that they do have the right to say no. So again, and I know Aaron Boone's not going to be alone in this, because I guarantee you on Netflix, I'm going to be watching that if I watch any Sunday morning baseball. And maybe NBC, and maybe other ones, no good, what is perceived to be, a good idea is going to go uncopied. I wouldn't care if they find me either. I'm not sure that you meant end game, though. I think, and not to give Keith props, we wouldn't, but ABS is going to fast bad umpires out of the league. I agree they will, and they'll become more familiar with the strike zone. That'll be a good consequence of this, Danny. Again, I want to be clear. I know I'm complaining about ABS, but I understand why we have it. The umpires have been bad enough and did nothing to make themselves or their troops better. People that are in charge of Major League Baseball umpires. That's Major League Baseball, I believe. Or they're a union if they want to protect jobs. Because, again, two things are going to happen here. First of all, we're never going away from this, I wouldn't think, unless somehow it turns into an abject failure, which doesn't appear right now that it will. So it's probably never going away. But the next step would be, we don't need umpires at all. So now you're going to lose jobs. The union's not going to like that. So they'll end up striking at some point. But I think you're right, Danny. I do think a consequence of this, and maybe not an unintended one, maybe we can call it unintended, is that the umpires will get better because guys will get forced out. Because now, they tracked every game you could see, and you had to go trust the league's data, right? But they would show what the guy's accuracy was. Every single game, they're tracked on their ball strike accuracy. But now they've got this, which, by the way, the strike zone is different now, too, by the way. So they had to measure every player, which they didn't measure them in their stance. So I really think there's some flaws to this whole system, by the way. But maybe a consequence will be that these guys will get better. So I don't. End game. I know what you meant, Paul. Fan interference on the replay. I get that one. I'm okay with that. Again, those have major impacts on the game, right? Fair foul home runs, fan interference. Even safe out calls, but that a guy's foot just coming off the bag or his finger coming off the bag for a millisecond. Come on. That's not what it was intended for. Fan interference, yes. I love cartoons, but this one cartoon I don't like. You already know better. You already know better. You heard me last year in the Toronto series. If they would have had ABS, then I would have challenged the World Series. I know you said that. And I'm more of a purist than a homer as well, as you know. Yeah, but and again, you would have. I don't remember. Did the game end on a controversial strike? Is that what you're saying? I don't remember now. The very last out. I think that's going to suck. I think that's going to suck so much. If it's an egregious call, I get it. But if it's an egregious call, then maybe everybody isn't running to jump and celebrate right away because they know they're going to get it overturned. If it's a call that's just, like I said, a millimeter off freaking home plate, and that's what decides a World Series, is that what we really want, Danny? Really? I mean, do we want the call right at any cost? Nothing's, nothing is too much. I don't know if that's what I want. NCAA, Danny thinks it's Arizona's to lose. Listen, Arizona has shown they've shot the basketball well, which was their shooting was one of the suspect things on this team. The thing about this team is there's not one guy. You can't stop one guy because the scoring is all over. They had 6 guys in the Sweet 16 game the other night. They had 6 guys score 14 or more points. That's a lot in college basketball. There's no one star to go stop. Right? I mean, I really think if you stop, and Duke's good, but I think if you kept Boozer in check, you have a much better chance of winning that game. Arizona, I don't think there's one guy you can say that. So they're the most balanced team that way. I think they're balanced offensively and defensively, although Illinois has stepped it up defensively, especially the last couple games, and shown a better propensity for offensive rebounds as well, which is huge in this environment. So listen, I'm not going to tell you Arizona can't win. And I think you're going to end up with some great semifinal games because I think you're going to get Duke and what I say it would be Duke, Illinois, and Arizona and Michigan. Tremendous Final Four in my mind. Keep taking Duke just a lot. I don't blame you there. When Duke goes out today or against, I'll take Illinois after that. I've had a very tough term. Now I did come. I'm the survivor pool that I was in. That was worth $8,000. It's very similar to football. You have to pick one game every day of the tournament. And I lost on Michigan State the other night. And I had it all mapped out because you gotta map this out because you gotta have teams left to pick. I mean, you could get to the Final Four and have no teams to pick if you don't do this correctly, right? So I had mapped this out so that I would have had Illinois to pick yesterday. Today, I would have taken, because you just got to figure who you want to win. So I had Michigan State. I would have taken Illinois yesterday. I would have taken, I'm trying to remember now because I don't have my list in front of me. I think I would have taken UConn. I'm sorry, I would have. That's wrong. I would have taken. My God, Michigan today. I would have taken on Saturday. You only got to pick one of the 2 games, right? I would have taken. I already would have taken Illinois, so I would have taken. I want Duke to win it all, so I would have taken Arizona in the semifinals, and I would have taken Duke in the final. That's how I laid it out. Let's see how that works out. I mean, I'm going to get anything for it. I will have lost one game. I'd have been one game away from 8,000. Here's a loaded question, and I know it's going to open up a can of worms. We like worms opened here. and only bring up one name, there's plenty to bring up, but you're going to bring up Greg Maddux. Would Greg Maddux have been in the picture if he was, would be the pitcher? I'm getting it. You don't have to repeat anything. He was with today's ABS, and I'm going to say easily no. I'd say no, without a doubt, no. I mean, would he have been a great pitcher? Yes. Would he have been as outstanding and he's not overpowering is the wrong word, because he wasn't an overpowering pitcher, but the man painted the black. Now, a lot of those pitches would still be strikes. You got to look at the other side too. I mean, how many balls did he throw that would be strikes? But I have to agree with you. I think Greg Maddux probably would not have the same, what do you win? I don't know, 4 Cy Youngs? 5 Cy Youngs? I love it. You ever see the picture on social media and it says, if Greg Maddux painted your house, and there's this big 2-story house and it's only painted around the edges. He's a great pitcher. He would have figured it out, I think, Danny, but again, I think it would have certainly impacted his approach to the game. Danny, as Duke. Danny's probably now got his life savings bet on Duke, or against Duke, rather, or Arizona. Just bet against Duke. You can probably get a bet in. Anybody but Duke. The Boozer brothers. Yeah. My brother and I were called that at one time in our lives. Listen, I like Michigan a lot. We talked about it this morning. I like Michigan. I think they'll beat Tennessee today. I do think, and Danny, what I was telling you was, I'm sorry, Brian, one of the reasons I didn't take Michigan was only because I had to lay out this. I was only talking about from the context of the survivor pool, right? So I can only take a team once, right? Once you've taken them, you can't take them again. So I probably didn't say that, but if you know survivor pools, that's the case. So I got to take Michigan somewhere. I didn't like Michigan to win at all, so I couldn't take them to win the semifinal. So that's kind of where I was there. I do think Michigan's got a listen, I think Duke can win this. I think Arizona can win this. I think Michigan can win this. I would not be shocked if any 3 of those teams won. I'd be shocked if UConn. I don't know if I'd be shocked if UConn win. I'd be shocked a little bit. I'd be more shocked, obviously, if Rick Barnes and Tennessee won. Today, I'd be shocked. I think they'll give Michigan a game. But I'll give your team some love. I told you today, they rallied. I mean, everybody thought their season was over when Kason went out. Their season not only wasn't over, but I think they found another gear. Really good basketball team, really well coached. And Dusty May, you don't hear his name amongst great coaches, do you? He's a great coach. Any other coaches get Florida Atlantic to the Final Four? I don't know if any other coaches got Florida Atlantic to the NCAA tournament. Great coach and a good team. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Duke playing Michigan in the final. I do think Arizona's a touch better. I think Michigan's, there's a couple of guys you can stop, right, and have a shot at winning that game. Or a better shot at winning that game, right? I just don't think there's anybody that fits that description on Arizona. I think that team is that deep. So in any event, I'm surely not trying to diss them. For Cy Young, for Maddux, he'd definitely be he'd have to change his approach. But again, he was a brilliant guy. Maddux won as much with his head as he did with his arm, man, and he was just different. Again, the Maddox painting. Love that. What about the fraternization thing I brought up? Do you feel, and I don't care about the sport, I don't see it as much. I see it in football, I guess, not quite as much, but baseball, I think baseball, more than any sport, has really become, and I know the old timers. I listen to Gossage, I listen to Greg Nettles, I listen to guys that, played back in the day, and they don't get it. I mean, again, I saw a shot of Jazz Chisholm and I believe Luis Arraez at second base Wednesday night, hugging and laughing and joking and kissing. And is that a song? Laughing, joking. And it just takes away I think it takes away from the game a little bit. I know these, it's not the same with guys moving around as much as they do. They've played with guys in different places. I think Arraez and Jazz played together in Miami, I think. So I get it a little bit, and I can see a little chit chat, but I mean, it seems to be getting overly friendly. And I like teams when they're between the lines to just not like each other. And maybe it's just me and my old school nonsense. So that's a lot of stuff we've been talking about. Any thoughts on, again, coaching situations in college basketball too are kind of interesting. We got the North Carolina job, which it seems like every coach in the Elite Eight is being mentioned for, it feels like. Except John Shire. Kansas could come open. We don't know what Bill Self is going to do. He says, the reports of his imminent retirement are overrated and wrong. But people wouldn't be surprised if he walked away. That Brad Underwood would be in play for that job, I think, because of his ties to Kansas. And it would be a very interesting career path because it would follow very closely Bill Self's. They both coached at Oklahoma State. Underwood was head coach and Bill Self was an assistant. They both coached at Illinois. They both, there was another, wasn't there? No, I guess they both coached at Illinois, and then Brad Underwood's from Kansas. So there's that job. There's a Will Wade situation in North Carolina State. Now the dispute is basically, these negotiations were going on for at least a month. Tampering. Where's their tampering? And why are these coaches? Are the coaches? Is it okay that the coaches bitch and moan about all the player movement, but then there's nothing that restricts them from moving? Somebody just pays their buyout and off they go. Good morning, Matt, out in Orange County. How you doing today, my friend? Good to have you with us. MJ's not going to take this job, number one. First of all, it'd be horrible. It'd be a horrible, horrible, horrible hire for North Carolina. Recruiting's not their problem. Don't tell me, well, he'll get all the best kids. Recruiting's not a problem. Hubert Davis could recruit. And Hubert Davis, you can make an argument Hubert Davis got screwed here. Hubert Davis didn't really want this job. Roy Williams kind of hoisted it on him. And then when push came to shove and Hubert Davis needed somebody like Roy Williams to speak up and back him, Roy Williams didn't say a word. In fact, he said, I'm not going to talk about the coaching situation. And before you tell me you saw on social media that Roy Williams said this was an abomination and it's going to ruin the program, he didn't say that. That is fake news. He didn't say anything. And he said, I'm not talking about the coaching situation when he was asked directly about it. Hubert Davis needed Roy Williams, and Roy Williams just let him hang out there. So you can take that for what it's worth. Did Davis do a horrible job at North Carolina? No, he didn't. He was like 24-8 after the NCAA tournament. Did they have a horrible loss? Yes, one of the worst. I hate the word choke, but whatever. They choked up one of the worst biggest leads in maybe the biggest lead in NCAA history. Not a good way to finish up. But Hubert Davis, again, I think if you had looked at this, go look. I mean, he never really stunk in conference. But I think the John Shire comparison really hurt Hubert Davis. John Shire came in a year later at Duke and has had much more success much more quickly. Is it much more success, though? Hubert Davis got to a final his first year. I think they only got in. I think they were played in the first four that year. But John Shire's been to a Final Four. Hasn't been to a final. Has he had that much more success than Hubert Davis in the big picture? In conference, he's had more success than Hubert Davis, yes. And looks like Wilson, who was out, by the way, we forget, he lost his best player with like a month left in the season, too. And now they're stuck because they've got to go outside the program, which they have not done since 1958, and they hired Dean Smith. When I say outside the program, people had ties to the program, right? Every hire they've had has been there since Dean Smith. Bill Guthridge, obviously, his longtime assistant, Matt Doherty, Roy Williams, obviously, and then Hubert. But there is nobody now. MJ's not getting his job. He doesn't want he doesn't want it, number one. Number two, he wouldn't be any good at it. He couldn't keep his players. I mean, that's a problem. But you got to admit, I mean, again, it also speaks to his ability to, and that's part of the problem, right? The fact that they transfer after 1 year isn't necessarily. His roster hasn't been all that. His roster, I shouldn't say that. He's recruited well, which is why kids transfer out. There's a lot of kids that do that. I mean, that's not, limited to Hubert Davis. But you're right. The best coaches. Tom Izzo was talking about in his post-game press conference after they lost on Friday night that, they asked him about the transfer portal. He says, "Yeah, I'm hitting the transfer portal tonight and tomorrow morning. I'm going into my locker room," which is what coaches have to do. Basically recruit their own players. So your point is taken, Neil, that, if you can recruit, but if you can't keep them there, that's a problem. But I think, listen, this was a talented team. This team played really well until Wilson got hurt. And I think Hubert Davis's issues, at least the ones that have come to light from people people who spoke anonymously within the ACC and ties to the program, have said his problem is on the bench, nowhere else. I mean, look at his post-game press conferences, right? He would be asked about a specific strategy, and he said, because that's what I wanted to do. He would never explain why he did anything, and maybe you don't need to, but you got to be better with the press, and because it looks like you don't know what you're doing, I think, if you keep saying, no, MJ, listen, I would not be surprised that they're going to ask Michael Jordan, because they do this, right? They talk to the family. They're going to talk to Roy Williams. They're going to talk to MJ. They're going to talk to James Worthy and some of these guys, probably about the guys they're considering, to try to get some consensus, I think, especially since they have to go outside the program for the first time in almost 60 years. So even with his issues, Neil thinks he should not have been fired. They should have looked to strengthen the coaching staff with him. Cannot blow 19-point leads. I agree. Did you say he should Yeah, so he shouldn't have been fired. I listen. He needed some help on the bench. I think it's apparent he's not the best in-game coach with some of the end-game situations we've seen him in, and then he doesn't have answers for them afterwards. He's able to recruit. I don't think talent necessarily is lacking. They may leave, but he's able to get top recruits. And I do think it's because people look at the ACC records, and John Shire's relatively better success at Duke in the same time period, replacing a legend. Both guys are replacing legends, right? And the perception is that Shire is miles ahead of Hubert Davis. I think as a game coach, he is. Speaking of cards, you saw some recently priced at $60,000 for numbered Otani auto, $75K for a numbered Mahomes. Unreal. What's that mean? Numbered. You got to educate me on these things, Matt. Guys, see you, Paul. Thanks for coming. Love you coming in. You got your honeydew list? I hit most of mine yesterday. Although I noticed last night I put some of the spring landscape lights out, right? And so there's some with like flowers. So they're fake flowers, but they have landscape lights with them that we put along the front path. And I looked outside last night and they're all blinking, all multicolor. So I did something wrong. I don't think that's how my wife wants them. So that's got to get fixed today. But have a great day, Paul. To Neil, Hubert wasn't ready to take on the North Carolina job, and seriously, I don't consider him a good coach, game coach. That is, that's my issue. I don't think he was a great game coach. And to the point about him not being ready, I mean, he was on that staff for 8 years under one of the great college coaches of all time. I don't know how much more ready you're going to get, but I don't think he wanted the job. I've read multiple articles, not just this year, but past years, that Hubert didn't really want the job, but Roy Williams kind of anointed him and he couldn't say no. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this coaching decision. North Carolina's second five is better than VC's. I won't argue with that. I won't argue with that. For sure. Where are we at? 10:13. We still got 40 minutes to go, 45 minutes to go. What else do you guys have on your mind? Any NBA you're excited about? Luka suspended for a game after his 16th technical. Do we care? What about the 65-game deal? I didn't even know that they had this rule in that to be eligible for postseason awards, MVP and such, you had to play a minimum of 65 games unless you had real injuries. Or Brian said this morning that suspensions also don't count against the 65. Protecting against load management, protecting against tanking. I think it's more against tanking. The league is really serious about stopping tanking. They're worse in the NBA than anywhere else. We talk about in the NFL, it is rampant in the NBA. I mean, look at not the Hawks, the Wizards, and who else was chasing them for losses here a few weeks ago? They both lost, 15 games in a row. It's rampant. And I've said forever, the way to do away with this, and I do it in the NFL as well. I would do it in the NBA. I'd do it in the NFL. I'd do it in Major League Baseball. The first pick goes to the team that is the first one missing the playoffs. So it would go to, theoretically, what do we have, 16 teams? So 17th best team would get the first pick. You're going to play hard all the time. So then you'd go 17 down to the worst team, and then you go back to the best teams. This would be the perfect way to eliminate tanking. I've said this for years. I never read it anywhere Why is that not an acceptable idea? Somebody explain it to me. I'm sure there's somebody here that disagrees with me. Or if you agree with me, why is that not a perfect solution? It seems to fit everything. You'll still get better. You won't necessarily have a lottery pick, though, unless you play good enough to earn one. And then you do away with the lottery. No lottery. No ping pong balls. Ping pong balls. They do all this stuff to leave themselves open for, people to think they're fixing things, which I doubt they are, by the way. But don't try to convince people of that. Wait. The screen's got to go up a little bit here. Sorry. Oops. Trying to adjust my screen. All right, we're good. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. With the Wizards and who else is sucking up the bottom of the NBA? Oh, the Hornets. That's what they're not one. Sorry. The Nets, the Pacers, the Wizards. These are all teams. I mean, the Nets are on a 10-game losing streak. The Wizards just came off like a 13-game losing streak. The Pacers were losing a bunch. Sacramento, Utah. None of these teams are trying to win. Well, if you had to get to 17, that'd be different, wouldn't it? Well, I guess not even 17 because you've got 10 teams that get in. So we would eliminate. We'd make it the 21st team. That's only like 11 picks, right? What are the 32 teams? Yeah. No, 15. There's 30 teams. That's 9 picks you line up and you go 21st down to 30. That's the first, 10 picks. Why does that not make perfect sense? I'd like to see 10 or less of each. Which one what? Oh, I see. Matt's talking about cards. Sorry. Didn't read who wrote this. Say like 10 or less of each. Oh, I see. You wish you could find one. Yeah, I know. Who doesn't? Why not Brad Stevens in North Carolina? Perfect hire. I think they would hire him in a second. I think they would give him anything he wanted, even though he hasn't coached college basketball since 2012. And he kicked himself upstairs probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago in Boston. I think they give him anything. I don't think he wants a job. He's come out and said he doesn't want the job. I think Brad Stevens would be a home run hire for any major college basketball team that's looking for a coach. And maybe someday he goes back. I don't know how old he is. I mean, he's still probably, I don't know, what is he, you think? 50, early 50s? 49. He's 49 years old. I wouldn't count this out, but I don't think the timing's right. The Boston's too good. Not sure he'd want to leave while they're on top. But it's a great point. He'd be the number one guy any of these programs should go after. But he's not going to take the job. I'm not a fan of relegation. And you certainly couldn't replace him with an expansion team. You'd have to have a lower league, Rick, for that to work. And I don't know, the G League, right? I don't think you're going to bring teams from the G League and put them in the NBA. Maybe you are. Carlos has had this idea for a long time in the NFL. Where are you going to bring them from? You can't have an expansion team because they're going to be horrible. So I think Danny might have even talked about relegation. I don't know. But I still like the idea of, okay, so if you're going to have these play-in games, right? So you've got 10 teams in each conference that make the playoffs. All you got to do is take the one with the 21st best record. You get the first pick. So you got to win at least this many games. I mean, how many would that be? Right? Where's that work right now? 40. All these teams are at least around 500. They're all over 500 this year. I take that back. The Golden State and Portland are under. So anyway, it would be Memphis. Right now, Milwaukee would have the first pick. And the 10th pick would go to, say, the Pacers or the Wizards or the Nets. Not penalizing you that much. But you're not going to get the number one pick ever if you tank. I think it's a perfect solution. John Gonzalez is in the house. Welcome, John Gonzalez from Danny Fuller for UCLA coach. Even one of my political nemesis on social media, Fred Wallen, who's, I don't know if you know Fred, Danny. He's a big UCLA fan. He does something sports-wise out that way. He hates Cronin. So, Danny, he might want you for the job. I don't know. Fred, if you're watching, I'm surprised. But I actually agreed with him. He when he talks sports, I have some agreements with Mr. Wallen. But outside of sports, man, karma's going to get you, dude. But good afternoon, John Gonzalez. Check out the Sports Authorities, the best group, the best admin out there. John, I say this all the time, was one of the first guys, I think the first guy, who I don't remember the particulars, John, whether I asked you or you asked me to. I joined your group, and you may have found the show and asked me to share it. I don't remember. I don't think I was sharing to any groups at that point. And then you asked and started a trend for me. But you've been with this show since the very beginning, 7 years ago. I think 7 years ago now. And we appreciate that every minute. And John is like, and Danny's a moderator over there, and the other guys who help drive people to that site. And I'm sending out some invites now and again. I'm careful that I don't send out too many at once, because it tend to, Facebook likes to shut me down from sending out invites and sharing the show if I don't put a governor on. But you guys do a great job of driving new people there. And John puts up some awesome stuff, man. If you like a mixture of today's sports and nostalgia, John, you had some great posts yesterday. Great pictures, some great stuff. So good to see you, John. Sick of these guys doing weird dances after a base hit. It's okay to get excited, but if you're shaking your rump and stuff, it's just weird. I was talking a little while ago about fraternization as well. I don't know. Baseball's gotten looser. And I've had to, and during the WBC, I came to this realization that I may have been too hard on, some of the players with the Latino background. So they're from, wherever, Venezuela, the Dominican, because they're much more demonstrative. And I saw during the WBC the excitement that they played with, and a lot of times little kid enthusiasm. So I kind of wanted to embrace more of that, but not silly little dances after a single. There's still some too much. Some of it's still showboating, but some of it I'm trying to take a harder look at. The bat flips, for instance. The things that are simple joy, I'm going to find a way to embrace. I don't know, but for the most part, I agree with you with some of this stuff. John, Danny, do you know Fred Wallen? I'm curious of him. He's got something to do with sports out there in California, LA area, I'm assuming. I feel bad for Fred because karma's going to get this guy, unfortunately. Wish he'd talk more sports because I kind of agree with him on a lot of stuff. The Vegas expansion team in hockey was good right away. Man, that's an outlier, though, Rick. I mean, how many expansion teams are good right away? That one. I mean, think about baseball expansion teams. I don't know. I don't know of any basketball teams that were good right away in expansion. You look at some of these teams where they expanded here. But I don't remember the last time the NBA expanded. I guess it might have been Toronto, Orlando. Those teams were bad for quite a while. But I guess if you're going to give them major league talent or professional, NBA talent, I don't know. You'd have to, you might be something that you could convince me of, but there'd have to be, in that case, remember when you're talking about relegation in the sense that Carlos was, because he's talking from soccer. And that's what they do in the professional soccer leagues in England, in England. I don't think they do it. I don't know if they do it in South America, but we'll talk about like where Manchester United plays, right? There's like 3 levels, I think, of leagues, and certain teams move up if they hit a certain performance level, and teams move down. If you watch Ted Lasso, I know all this from Ted Lasso. That's how I know it. I don't know anything about soccer. Everything I learned about soccer, I learned from Ted Lasso. I didn't know it was a pitch until I watched the field is a pitch, the pitch. So anyway, I mean, again, it might work, but you've got to have other leagues affiliated with the top league. So you couldn't just do expansion teams. I don't think that would work. Yes, there are outliers like Vegas. Did they go to the final the first year? Look at that, Danny. There's a groundswell of support for you to be the UCLA coach. I'm signing up too. That's 3. You're on your way, my friend. JB. Former Seattle and Orioles second baseman Harold Reynolds was talking on MLB radio earlier this week and said the slowest to change are the Americans in baseball. Too old school, too slow to adapt to younger generations. In what regard? In which regard, JB? What I just talked about with, being more tolerant of other the Latino cultures, for instance, in the bat flips, or are we talking about too slow to adapt? Guys like me, that's me. You're talking about there, old school. I get that. Not wanting players interviewed on the field, not wanting AI, artificial intelligence deciding games, not wanting pitch clocks, not wanting the baselines to be changed. We fix what isn't broken. You could have fixed baseball. I mean, you could have fixed baseball years ago just by enforcing the rules that were already in the rule book. And baseball would have been fine. That wouldn't have fixed the umpire problem. They had to get better. And I'm not really sure, just in general, JB, which the context Harold was talking about. Which changes are we talking about? We're too slow to adapt. UNC will only hire a coach with. They're not. There is nobody, John. Give me a name. I asked this a couple of weeks ago, and you probably weren't here, so you're forgiven. I asked this a couple of times now. Give me a name that's got North Carolina ties that they could hire. I can't come up with a guy. Unless you're just going to give a guy with no experience as a former player. Okay, James Worthy, here's the keys to the program. We're not going to do that. There's no assistants on that team that are mentioned as possibilities. Larry Brown's too old. Right? Roy Williams isn't coming out of retirement. So where do they go? Give me a name. Any name. It's not MJ. He's not going to coach. That would be it'd be, oh my God. It'd be a train wreck. he's not going to risk his reputation. Number one, he's never coached. He's never recruited. No. If and when the NBA does expand, which is a horrible idea, by the way, Danny, right? Don't you think none of these leagues need more teams? I mean, isn't the talent diluted enough at on these teams with 30? We don't need more Major League Baseball teams, Rob Manfred. Look at some of the pitchers that are pitching in the major leagues right now. Anyway, if and when the NBA does expand, the first city will be Vegas. It looks like when and if they expand, it'll be Vegas and Seattle. I'm pretty sure Adam Silver basically has said that. I just hope the NBA doesn't do what the NHL did and reward the new teams, all 6 keepers on existing teams, which again, so to Rick's point about Vegas, the Black Knights, the Vegas Knights, doing well very out of the beginning or out of the gate. That expansion draft was different than any other expansion in any other sport that I can remember, as Danny's kind of pointing out. They rigged that system so that team would be good. And I don't know if they did it just because they wanted Vegas to be good. I'm not saying that. I don't know what their reasoning was. I'm sure they had some at the time. But you can't really compare that expansion to, I don't think, to any other. Now, the Kraken's gotten good, too, fairly quickly, now that I think about it. So everything I said, I don't know. Do I care if Harold Reynolds thinks I'm, an old fuddy-duddy? No. I have embraced, as I said, now I have decided that I've been too harsh on some of the Latino players and the way their approach to the game is. Not necessarily, I've heard a lot of what I consider to be racist comments about Latino players being lazy and Dominicans, right? We pick out Dominicans. I knew a guy who did that all the time. And I'm like, you talk about Robinson Cano. And I think you can't just, I'm not judging a whole, an entire collection of players and judging them all and they're all going to be lazy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about their approach to the game and having more fun, it would seem, than Americans. I can say that for sure. I agree. I mean, look at the WBC. That opened my eyes. I don't think for 1 second that the U.S. didn't care, but they had a very much more business-like approach than, say, Venezuela or, Japan would be the same way, by the way. I think you could say that even more so about the Japanese probably than the U.S. But all the Latin American countries play it with a different type of enthusiasm, if you will. I have no problem. I didn't like it in the beginning, and I realized then I was probably I was wrong. I'm just going to say I was wrong for the opinions that I had at that time. I'm okay with not all of it, but a lot of it I'm okay with because now I realize whatever is done with out of joy and an enthusiasm for the game that's good for the game. Now, if the pitcher doesn't like it, then that pitcher can do something about it. Danny, the new Wizard of Westwood. He has no ties to the North Carolina program, by the way. John wants the Tar Heels to hire Joe Namath from Alabama. I don't think he has any ties to the Tar Heel program, by the way. I'm going to get that. I see your comment there, John. Let me see. If it ain't baseball, it's too irresponsible parents allowing their children smartphones. It ain't baseball. It's too many irresponsible parents allowing their children smartphones. I'm not sure how that's connected, CA, but John Kenny Smith, that's an interesting name. But again, no coaching experience that I'm aware of. Does Kenny Smith coached anywhere? Are you turning? Do you really want to turn? And again, it's not a bet. If you're gonna insist that the coach have Carolina ties, and Kenny Smith would be a guy that I'd say I'd roll the dice with. I think it'd probably be a disaster. I mean, look at what happened with Juwan Howard in Michigan. He had some success, but at the end of the day, it was a disaster. But if you're going to say, I got to have a guy, and Danny says the same thing, it is an interesting take. I agree, John. That's an interesting choice. And again, if you're going to put a gun to my head and say, the guy's got to have North Carolina ties, Kenny Smith is probably a guy I would consider. I don't think Kenny has any. Let me just look up Kenny Smith real quick. Sorry, John. I know you don't like that, but I don't know off the top of my head. I don't. College career, international career, professional career. Well, he played a lot more teams than I thought he played with. Broadcasting. He went right into broadcasting. He's also acted. He was in the movie Hustle with Adam Sandler. I guess I do remember that. But again, if we have to have ties, then Kenny Smith is an interesting guy. Rick sent a list. Hold on, let me pull this up. Facebook Messenger. Oops, I got to go to my page here. Let's see what Rick came up with here. Damn it. Come on, Facebook. Please. Please. Thank you. Please and thank you. All right, let's see what Rick gave me here. See how many is like, oh, you got it's a link. Okay. Billy Donovan has no ties to North Carolina. None. Billy Donovan's a guy they will definitely want to. Billy Donovan has talked openly about this. So I thought you said they had ties to the program. Did I misread your comment? Hang on. They don't have, none of these have North Carolina ties, not the ones I've read so far. I've seen the exact list several times. Todd Golden has no ties to North Carolina. Coach of Florida. None. Tommy Lloyd has no ties to Arizona. Tommy Floyd from Arizona has no ties to North Carolina. He coached for like 20 years under Mark Few at Gonzaga. Dusty May, no coach. Yeah, I've none of these guys. Nate Oates, I've seen all these guys. Otzelberger, no ties. None of these guys have ties. Yeah, I've seen that exact article, Rick, and that list comes up in a lot of different places. But those are all the big name coaches that I mentioned earlier that were in the Elite Eight, basically, all of them, or Sweet 16 anyway, except for Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan's another guy that is high on their list. And I'll tell you what, if I can't get Brad Stevens, Billy Donovan's maybe a gift. If I got to go outside the program, I don't want any of those other guys. In fact, I don't know why those guys would consider leaving the jobs they're in for North Carolina, quite frankly, because the expectations will be so much different. Billy Donovan has done it. Billy Donovan's won back-to-back titles at Florida, was in 3 or 4 Final Fours. Did a great job at Florida, including, as I said, back-to-back titles. It's been a long time since he coached in college. The landscape is totally different. But he's a guy I'd hire, but no California ties. Or I'm sorry, Carolina ties, none. So I hate to blow up your comment, but there's nothing there. Andy Stankiewicz I did not know Andy Stankiewicz, former Yankee. I think that's with a S-T-A-N, isn't it? I did not know he was a USC coach. former Yankee, farmhand. Played a little bit with the Yanks. Shaka Smart has no ties. I could see him being interviewed at North Carolina. Danny, that's a good call. Shaka's done well, did very well at Virginia Commonwealth, so he knows that area. Kind of flamed out at Texas, never really met potential at Texas, but has done a great job until this year. Had done a great job at Marquette. No elite, at least, I don't know if he might have one Elite Eight, I'm not sure. With Marquette. Made a Final Four with Virginia Commonwealth. That's an interesting name, but again, no ties. Hello, Donna. Hope you're doing well, health-wise and every-wise. Good to have you with us. Guys, while we've got one of our Max audiences, check out Jack Hirsch's book, Michael Jinx Spinks. We're going to keep pushing this for Jack. Jack is the official biographer of Michael Spinks. And the book is a great read. I will be finishing up this afternoon. It's a really good read. And I said this to Jack the other morning, that it's an easy read. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's to me, there's even good books. There's good books that are hard reads, tough reads, because they're hard to get through just to, I don't know how to really explain it, but it's just an easy read. It's like having a conversation, listening to somebody chat with you next to you. So it's kind of cool. I had a lot of fun with the book, and I look forward to finishing up. I'm glad you're doing well, Donna. Very happy to see that. And there's a hello from Donna to Danny. What's on your mind, Donna, sports-wise? Baseball fan? Excuse me. I know you're in Pennsylvania, so I don't know if you're a Phillies or a Pirates fan. We've been talking a little bit of baseball today, a little bit of NCAA basketball. Which I know isn't your forte. Little NBA we've talked about. We haven't got into the NFL much. Did anybody notice? Oh, bless you. Did anybody notice, speaking of NFL, what happened here? Oh, okay. Got a couple of comments. I'll bring it up in a second. Let me get these. CA Stars got Ratanen and Bunting back yesterday for a 6-3 road win in Philadelphia against Flyers and back-to-back this evening. It's funny. The NHL has taken such a back seat for me usually this year. And it's because the Rangers suck. And I know that, I get to be a fair weather fan. The Rangers are so bad. I've paid so little attention to the NHL. Although there are some good stories. I think the Sabres being back are a great story in the East. Lindy Ruff, his second time around there, has done a great job. Your Stars are playing well, chasing down Colorado. Got off to a great start. And the Stars have done a great job of staying with them and starting to chase them down a little bit before we get to the playoffs. So good job there. And Anaheim Ducks doing well. Good job there. He signed a few Yankee cards for you. Cool. He was a scrappy player. Didn't have a ton of talent. Didn't spend a lot of time with the big club, as I remember, but did play well. Phillies, Bryce Harper's a great player. You know what? This is funny. This happened in Washington, I swear to God. And maybe it's a Philly thing. I don't mean no disrespect to you, Donna. And maybe it's my screen that's crooked, not my glasses. And maybe it's my head. No disrespect to you at all, Donna, but Philly fans seem to be very hard on their players, and some of them rightfully so. But Bryce Harper is a great player. Man, he came back when he ripped up his arm and learned a new position and is really good at it. He's gotten older, but he's been steady, man. I don't think he ever got his due when he was with the Nationals, and for whatever reason, even his own general manager thinks he's past his prime. I think Bryce has got a lot to play for this year. And I think you're going to see a good year out of Bryce Harper, assuming he stays healthy. He's not young anymore. He's 34, if I'm not mistaken, which makes me feel very old. I mean, I remember when this guy was 19. I think he made his debut at 19, didn't he, with the Nationals? But guys are hard. I think Bryce Harper's a great player. Danny's now asking questions. Danny, listen, I know that I'm in the minority here, by the way. Danny. You don't have to politic and get more people on your side. I get it. I'm in the very small majority that think this thing, again, it's hard. I'm not against getting calls correct. I'm against the unintended consequences that come with any of this artificial intelligence that we're going to continue to use more and more in sports. It's only a matter of time before we don't have any umpires out there at all. And in sports, just say that's okay. But, you know, artificial intelligence in general, I watched an interesting documentary. I got to find the name. Next week, I'll promise you I'll bring the name to the show. I'd seen the guy interviewed by Bill Maher, and there's some interesting things about AI in general, using it both in everyday situations, work situations, home situations, military situations that are very scary. And it's a slippery slope that we're probably not putting the genie back in the bottle here. How many cliches can I get out in like 30 seconds here? It's probably not going away. But I'll find you the name of this documentary, and you could take it for what it's worth. But some of the things that can unintended consequences are very scary in every situation. And then, again, sports doesn't have really anything to do with the real world. But this is, again, it's often a reflection of the real world. And again, I would see this is probably going to be successful for the most part. The little things that I've talked about that I think will suck and will make the game less exciting in certain moments. But we've already done that with baseball and certain things. I mean, I don't get excited over. I used to be a big, let's hit and run and steal bases more. Well, I'm not so excited about stolen bases when you shorten the base path. And also, I can only throw over to the first base so many times because you're artificially now increasing the stolen base numbers. We're heading towards no umpires at all. When this is successful, we're heading towards no umpires. Got cameras everywhere. What do I need an umpire for? Umpire could make the call. Just look. I don't like it. Hello, AC. Good to have you with us. Well, he's 34 years old. He had a bad year last year. Let me defend Bryce Harper for a second. I'm going to say, and maybe I'm wrong, he's not a young guy anymore, but I think he only had one bad year. We'll see if my memory is better than yours. I mean, he had 30 home runs, had 87 RBIs, and his OPS was 890. As bad a year as last year supposedly was, his OPS, which is a very important number and one of the few newer statistics that I like because it's a combination of on-base percentage and slugging percentage, was 844. That's still really good. He still had 27 home runs in a down year. 30 home runs. Well, you're right. 20 and 80 and 23. He's been hurt more. He hasn't played in as many games. 2022 is the year he got hurt. And he only hit 261 last year, so I get that. But before that, he never hit under 286. His slugging percentage has been under 5 just once. Now, is he a player he was when he was 27 and 28 years old? No, he's not. But unless you're on steroids, guys aren't getting better at 33. And remember, he's been up since he's 19. I won't disagree his numbers are going down. I will say he's one of the better players in baseball still. No, I'm not going off this time. You're good. We're going to retire the Itch Award in your name. So true. There was a video of Marines bombing something. It looked real, but it was AI. What, right? I mean, you can't trust anything you see anywhere. Video, audio, you can't trust it. Now, when I talk about the AI, I talk about them making decisions. So I'll say just quickly, and again, you got to watch a documentary to get the full context. Like in real life, there were times where they would be a personal assistant. So they've worked out these real life situations, and AI is a personal assistant to somebody, and gathered enough information that the AI was blackmailing the person they were a personal assistant to. Again, you got to watch the thing to get the full context. There were situations in military. So they play war games. And the AI was like 5 times or 10 times as likely to use the nuclear option than humans. That's not scary, I guess. I'm just saying. Again, I'm not just talking about videos, which is bad enough. I know the umpires make a bad call, and I've said 100 times now that, the umpires have nobody to blame for this but themselves, because they didn't hold their umpires accountable enough. Major League Baseball, the umpires union, whoever you want to blame. And now they're going to end up losing jobs because of it. Because these machines, and Danny talked about it earlier, Donna, that, one thing that could come of this, and he's absolutely right, hopefully, that some umpires are going to get shown to be so bad. Garcia mentioned the other day amongst the umpires that some of them are going to be embarrassed by what happens here. So, yeah, guys are going to lose their jobs. And hopefully they'll get better umpires to replace them. But we're never going to get away from this just because we got better umpires. I mean, again, the genie's out of the bottle. This stays forever. But once this shows to be successful, and then there's little anomalies that I don't like and other people maybe won't like that end of game scenarios that I've talked about that will just destroy the excitement of some moments. They'll look the other way on that, and then we'll see umpires gone entirely. We'll have AI making all the calls. Women's basketball is unwatchable. Geez, you're going to end up in my book with the women picketing your house. Even soccer's better. Women's hockey is showing signs of enjoyment. I like women's hockey. It's really good. Women's basketball is not terrible, but it's very predictable as far as the games and the matchups until we get to the finals, as we talked about earlier. Look at him in the WBC. I saw him hit a home run in the clutch, as you said. Well, Aaron Judge did horrible. Aaron Judge struck out 4 times or 3 times in the last game. I'm not going to say Aaron Judge is washed up. You see him more than I do, though. I've seen Keith go off. Everybody's seen me go off. It's all in the good fun, though, Donna. As we said, when Danny and I talked about it earlier, I disagree with a lot of people. Yeah, I gave you, this is for you, Donna. I gave you some Eagle colors today. It's just a top that I grabbed. If you haven't noticed, I have these in about, 20 different colors and shapes and sizes. I agree they have to be held accountable. I agree 100%. But get better umpires. I have no argument left about having the ABS. I do think there'll be consequences end of game situations in big games that you're not going to like. Donna, I was going to say something, but I was being nice. About what? Oh, about my green. I just wear colors, guys. When I'm wearing my colors, you'll see NY or a Flying Elvis here. I got one right back there I could have put on. Wrong color for Jets green, isn't it? Jets green is pukier, isn't it, Matt? Pukier green. You answered, Danny, because he's from the land of the future president of the United States, Gavin Newsom. The thing that gives me nightmares at night. Oh, God. Where is the conservative? I'm going to end the show with political talk, right? Where is the conservative base in California? Northern or Southern California? I really don't know, Danny. I just know in general it's very liberal. I don't know how Schwarzenegger got elected twice. That's the ultimate compliment, by the way, I got to believe. Thank you, Danny. Getting up early at 5 a.m. for me. I love that. Folks trying to cancel us outside one of our gates would be hilarious and more entertaining than sports nowadays. I've been canceled by a few people, but they just a one-off situations. So, right. I hope you know I said that with 100% sarcasm, Matt. Paul. Oh, Paul leaves and now you crap. I don't know. Look at California is a beautiful state. I mean, Danny's going to be the next, billionaire that moves out of the state, though, probably. You ain't coming to New York. Don't come here. It's just as bad. I mean, when I joke about California being a foreign country, believe me, I say that I should be saying New York is as well. So anyway, can we do? Guys, great show today. I've enjoyed every second of this, as I always do. Like Hosford High. Appreciate all you guys who have watched live. Who's still here? I'm going to say goodbye. You are up early, Matt. You come in a little bit later, but Danny's like a 5 a.m. kind of guy. He's the best. You won't get, that's all right. Like you two a lot. And I'd understand if you weren't here at 5 a.m. I'm not doing shows at 5 a.m. Danny's in LA. That's the only reason. Great show. I've had a great fun. You guys have made it a great show as always. This show is my favorite, as you know, to do every week. We'll see you tomorrow morning with Jack on the Weekend Playbook. You guys have a great Sunday. Thank you. TGI Sports Talk Sunday. Stream of consciousness. Bye-bye.